Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, AnglerQwest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show right here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan, and I am so glad to have you along with us as we continue to work our way through this summer season, the season of the year when people just look forward to so much. I mean, think about this, right? In February, in March, when it's snowy and cold, what are you thinking about? Probably not going outdoors so much in the snow and cold, although I get it, right? There are things to do there, but we're thinking about the summer season. We're thinking about getting outdoors. We're thinking about getting on the water. We're thinking about, this time of year, we're thinking about going camping. We're thinking about family vacations. And I hope you are able to enjoy this summertime season. Yes, things get busy. Work gets busy. Ball season gets busy, right? If you've got kids or grandkids who are playing ball or playing soccer, I know what that's like. I feel like kids' sports these days have made a little bit of a shift in that they don't worry about anything other than the kids' sports. You know, they don't worry about scheduling ball games on Sunday morning, which is a conflict for many families for church. They don't worry about scheduling games on holiday weekends because that's a time when some families would want to take a vacation. But I don't want to get off topic there. Okay, so my latest fishing adventure out there on Saginaw Bay on the AnglerQwest. It was a day after a big storm. I mean, an all-day, real heavy blow. And the thing about Saginaw Bay is it's shallow enough when you get a big wind, it stirs things up. I had one of my charity charter trips scheduled for the day after the big blow, and I had already postponed that trip because of the heavy winds earlier in the season, so I did not want to postpone. I told the folks, I said, you know what, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. But if you're willing to take what Mother Nature will give us, I think we should go ahead with the trip. And they agreed, and they were just wonderful people, really great people. And man, did I struggle. It was my toughest day of fishing Saginaw Bay this season, this summer. The water was dirty. It was churned up. There were a lot of floating weeds, which is what happens in that shallow water that I love. It's like a washing machine, right? The wind just gets in there and it pounds and it riles everything up and it tears up the weeds. And it's really hard to fish because, number one, I think when it gets that riled up, I think some of the fish just head out to cleaner water. The fish that are left in there have a harder time seeing your baits because it's just so turbid and so cloudy. And probably the biggest factor is when there are that many floating weeds, you just can't keep them off your baits. And I feel like if you've got a weed on your bait, even if it doesn't affect the movement of the lure, I don't think fish will bite a bait that's got a weed on it. So I tried making a pass through my beloved skinny water, and I said, look, we got to go find some cleaner water. So we just started trolling out. I thought if I get out, to the tip of, say, Callahan Reef. It's got to be clear out there, right? It's got to be clean by that. I get out to the tip of Callahan Reef, and it still looks like chocolate milk. It's like, man, I'm not going to go any farther because I don't know how far I'm going to have to go to find clean water. Now, I was convinced that if I would just keep going, eventually I would find clean water and we would get fish. But I didn't want to go that far. I didn't have time to go that far. So we turned around, we came back in, and we just worked it. Just worked it. I mean, I think I had like 6,000 steps that day at the back of the AnglerQwest, just going back and forth, changing baits, changing rods, cleaning baits. It was not an ideal trip, but I had a great crew. They were very understanding. And what did one of our guests say on last week's show? The best time to go fishing is when you can. If you can wait for the perfect time, the perfect conditions, okay. But if you can't, you take advantage of what Mother Nature gives you, and you go when you can, and you just work with it. So I'm thinking that my next few trips should be better. Well, they can't be much harder, right? I did pull the AnglerQwest this week. I pulled it out of the water. Took it upriver to get power washed. The boat stays in the slip all summer long, and by midsummer, there is so much crud and junk and grass and zebra mussels and everything else that have attached to the tubes that it feels like a different boat. I can't get the performance out of it. It rides differently. But, I mean, you think about that. There are, maybe a couple 100 pounds of weight from the junk on the tubes, but then there's the resistance in the water that it causes. So it feels like a different boat. It feels like a brand new boat. After I get it power washed and put it back on the water, it's like, man, it's got its zip again. It's riding different. It just feels better. I wish there was a way, and we have actually experimented with this, somehow coating those tubes, those pontoons, that would prohibit growth. Now, I know you can bottom paint a fiberglass boat. I have bottom painted metal boats before. I had a Starcraft that I bottom painted, and that does help. I guess I don't know of anybody who has actually bottom painted a pontoon. Could you do it? I don't know. I don't want to do it because I turn those boats around. I don't hang on to them that long. But it's a pain. If you have a solution for this, please let me know. Send me an email to mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. But I will tell you this. Several people have said, oh, yeah, we have a product that'll fix that, that'll prevent that. And we've tried them, and nothing has worked so far. So I'm going to go into that conversation from a skeptical point of view. Speaking of being skeptical, since we've last talked, the NRC, the Natural Resources Commission, has made their recommendations for the 2024 fall deer hunting season. Now, a little background here if you're not aware. The NRC, the Natural Resources Commission, is basically the ultimate authority on fish and game management here in Michigan. They take the suggestions that the DNR, the Department of Natural Resources, makes, and they rule on them. The NRC had asked the DNR to form a group called the Deer Management Initiative. And the stated purpose of the Deer Management Initiative was to come up with input and suggestions on how to change deer hunting in Michigan. Now, I said a couple weeks ago on the show that I think this was greatly needed. I've not been shy about saying that I think deer hunting in Michigan these days, and deer hunting maybe in general, the culture of deer hunting has changed, and I don't like it. I've never said it isn't fun, but I have said I've lost my passion for it. If you're sitting in a tree stand or sitting in a ground blind, yeah, it's going to be fun, but I just don't have the passion for it that I used to because of everything deer hunting has become. So the NRC asked these groups, and these groups put a lot of time and a lot of angst into their decisions on what to recommend for deer hunting. They take it to the DNR, they take it to the NRC, and at this most recent meeting, it appears to me, from an outsider, it appears to me that the NRC just kind of blatantly disregarded most everything that was suggested. It is actions like that and their decision here a few months ago to close the coyote hunting season from being a year-round season that really has me questioning, do we even need a Natural Resources Commission anymore? Now, keep in mind, the NRC are appointed by the governor. Can we get rid of that process? Is there a better way to do it? A lot of people are asking that these days. After the break, I'm going to ask that very question to Justin Tomei of MUCC. Coming up on this week's show, as long as we're talking about it, Justin Tomei of MUCC after the break. Then Andy Wiess of Michigan-based Truck Trolley. This is a product I want you to know about. It's very cool. In our second hour, Larry Jennings talks about jigging for king salmon. Not trolling, jigging for king salmon. Aileen Kemme of the DNR on getting kids involved in the outdoors. This week's Ask Avery segment features Brad Dupuie of AnglerQwest. What's the status there, Brad? And in our third hour, we're getting ready for the fall bow season with Thomas of Bowhunter Planet. Plus, we wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. The golf outing coming up very soon now, Monday, July 29th. We're full. We have a waiting list. We're trying to figure out a way to get more golfers involved. If you want to join us, mucc.org/golf. This is a fundraiser to raise money for MUCC's youth camp. And if you just want to get involved by sponsoring or offering products, again, mucc.org/golf. My name is Mike Avery. This show is called Outdoor Magazine. My website is mikeaveryoutdoors.com. My email address is mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. I also do live streams a couple of times a week, every Wednesday morning at 8:45 from the radio studio, and every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock for something called Wednesday Night Live. How original is that? We'll take a break. When we come back, we're going to check in with Justin Tomei. What does he think of the NRC's recent decisions and the NRC in general, and more right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Alpena on WZTK. That's 105.7 FM. You can hear us in Port Huron, WPHM, 1380 AM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Marquette, WDMJ, 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by a good friend of mine, Matt Smith, Outdoor Realtor. I've known Matt for a long time. He's just a great guy. I think very honest, very trustworthy guy, and I think he really wants to do the best for his clients. He's an expert at finding recreational properties and vacation homes, and he can help your family turn a dream into a reality. Learn more online at Matt Smith Outdoors on Facebook and Instagram. And by the way, if you're looking for a new home as your primary residence, Matt can help you out there as well. It's Matt Smith Outdoors on Facebook and Instagram, Matt Smith Outdoors. While you are online, please check out my website, mikeaveryoutdoors.com. Then jump over to mucc.org. That's the website of the Michigan United Conservation Clubs. Justin Tomei is with MUCC, with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Justin, how's your golf game? You ready to go?
Oh, my golf game's terrible. It has been since I went to college. But I'm ready. I'll be there.
Of course, we're talking about the first annual Mike Avery Outdoors charity golf outing to raise funds for MUCC's youth camp. It's coming together very well. I'm very excited. Justin, I appreciate you guys working with me on that. But the topic at hand right now is, I want to know, well, help me figure out what the NRC decided as far as deer regulations for the fall. What came out of last week's meeting?
Well, I would be lying if I told you that I could tell you every detail, but I can give you guys the general overview. And we'll do the lower first because it's a little cleaner. So basically starting this year in the lower, the September early antler list, the December late antler list are now open on public lands as well as private. Muzzleload season, you can now use any legal firearm basically in the entire lower. If it's below the limited firearm zone, you have to use the firearms appropriate there. And there is expansion of January opportunities. So they've expanded the urban archery program to several other counties across the state. And then they've also created like this new January firearms deer season that starts January 2nd, runs to the second Sunday in January, with its own bag limits, its own tag quotas. You can get an additional 10 antlerless deer for that season as well. Wow. Beginning in 2025, of course, the Liberty and Independence hunts are antlerless only. And so that's, I think off the top of my head, the biggest gist of the lower changes. Things that were not adopted in the lower, an expansion of baiting. APRs and Hunter's Choice were both not adopted at that meeting as well. So that's the overhead view of that. The Upper Peninsula is a little more complicated because it got into very specific DMU boundaries and things like that. Generally, though, we've had a pretty restrictive antlerless take in the UP. That continues to be the case, and in some places it's even more restrictive. Shutting down the season, I think, on December 10th, and lowering quotas for access permits in 351 and 352.
Is it an oversimplification to say that basically in the lower they want more deer taken, and in the upper they want fewer taken?
I would not call that an oversimplification. I think for the UP especially, that's true. And, and I would say I would only add the only qualifier being that in of the lower. The southern lower in particular has an overabundance of antlerless deer, and there are pockets across the state. But yes, that's generally the case.
There's going to be, in effect, a very long rifle season for a lot of lower Michigan, lower peninsula hunters.
There really is. We've never seen anything like it where, for almost the entire time from November 15th into January, and so in some parts of the state, you'll be able to carry a gun hunting antlerless deer. And the commission's idea behind that, I have to assume, was just to incentivize and provide extra opportunities so that maybe people start pulling the trigger. We'll see if it bears fruit or not.
Well, the wildlife managers, the biologists, have been saying for some time, with hunter numbers going down, we have to find a way to harvest more deer because we don't have the number of hunters that we used to. We got to take these deer out of there. It seems like this is a response to that.
It really is, I hope that hunters in the southern lower in particular, take the responsibility seriously because we do need to harvest more antlerless deer in those areas. One of the things that I preached kind of in the DMI process was that it's also a cultural problem. We kind of got to get some of, and I'm going to generalize it as a lot of the older hunters that weren't always harvesting antlerless deer. We got to get them to pull the trigger. I don't know if you can regulate that or not, but it's a cultural and a regulatory issue.
Yes, I think I agree that it's a lot of the older hunters, and I'll take it one step farther. My dad used to get doe tags and burn them so nobody would shoot a doe because, we were brought up, though, you protect those animals. They are the future of the deer herd, but things have changed.
Right. My uncles and grandpas in some cases are a lot of the same way. They haven't killed a doe in 40 years, and they probably will never kill another one again.
What about the thinking on making the youth hunt does only? Because I'll be honest, I've been a proponent of that for quite a while.
Yeah, and I'm going to do my best to summarize what I took from the meeting. And what I took from those meetings was that the commission thought that changing this to antlerless only will kind of help instill that culture into the next generation of hunters so that these kids get into it, understanding that taking an antlerless deer is not only okay, but in a lot of cases necessary for proper herd health. So, again, that's something we'll have to see if it bears fruit. There was talk about a sunset on that regulation. I don't know if it was included or not, but it is definitely going to be a dramatic shift. I killed my first deer, I think, in the first youth hunt 20-something years ago. And so it's really helpful to help get youth out there, but we'll see if this change helps bring apart that cultural change that we were talking about.
Well, I think it does take some of the social pressure off the youth hunt because that's been one of the knocks by many hunters is they're out there shooting the big bucks, which I don't buy into, but that's neither here nor there. But if we're trying to get kids involved in hunting and they can't shoot a buck, I hope it doesn't. I think it's a good move. I hope it doesn't backfire on us, though.
That's the danger, right? So Chad Stewart put up one graph at the meeting where older hunters, as they got older, increasingly liked this proposed or this now adopted change. But if you pulled the younger hunters, the younger you were, the more opposed to this change you were. So it's definitely going to be an interesting academic experiment to see whether or not this has the desired effect.
Were you a member of DMI, Deer Management Initiative? Were you part of that group?
I was. I served on the Upper Peninsula group, and our CEO, Amy, served on the lower.
What was that process like? I mean, I feel like it was long. I feel like it was kind of intense. I feel like maybe it was grueling at some points. I feel like you guys put a lot of work into this.
We absolutely did. And I want to sing the department's praises on this one because the quality of information they provided to us was exceptional. I want to make sure I sing the praises of my fellow DMI members because there were a lot of conflicting ideas that came together, and we all were grown-ups, and I thought we did pretty good work. But it was grueling. It was, and some nights it was 3 nights a week. We were on Zoom calls from 7 to 10. We all missed time with our families. Some of us had to take time off of work, and then ultimately we went for that 2-day long meeting and came together and put together those scenarios. So it was a grueling process. It was long. It was over several months. I'd probably do it all again if I could too.
So you had a lot of ideas, a lot of suggestions, a lot of proposals that you had brought to. Did you take them to the DNR first, or did you take them directly to NRC?
Both, really. So, I mean, two commissioners were at the lower. There were definitely 2 commissioners at the upper DMI meetings just watching. And obviously the department facilitated them. So both the commission and the department had the regulatory scenarios immediately within seconds of them being completed. So they went through the department, who then drafted the order for the commission.
So you had a lot of information that you presented. Did you feel like the commission, and I realize you're in a tough spot here, Justin, but did you feel like the commission took this all into account, or do you feel like maybe a lot of the hard work you guys had put in was for naught?
I don't know that I'd say it was for naught. I think the commission listened. Obviously, maybe the results don't necessarily reflect that, the outcome, the outcomes. That answer doesn't reflect the outcomes. But I felt like this was something that the commission wanted to do and wanted to take seriously. Ultimately, it seems that they disagreed with some of the proposals that came out of those DMIs. And MUCC disagreed with a lot of the proposals that came out of those DMIs. I don't think it was for naught because I met a lot of people and a lot of relationships were repaired or made that probably wouldn't have been otherwise. There were other members of the DMR I was joking with the other day, and he joked that he used to think MUCC was the worst people in the world, but not anymore after working closely with us on this DMI. So it definitely wasn't for naught. It united a lot of folks, and it got people involved in ways that they hadn't been otherwise. So the outcomes may not have been what the DMI proposed, but the work we did was still good. And also the public in this order only contained this small fraction of all the work that the DMI did. We had an order of magnitude more, at least in the UP DMI, non-regulatory proposals or long-term things that the commission maybe didn't have the legal authority to act on today. And so, we're only seeing this little microcosm of all the work we actually did.
So is part of what you did that did not get acted on right now, is it still out there that may be considered in the future, or is it, boom, we're done, that's all that's going to happen?
Some of it is. So Tom Baird, the chair of the NRC, has tried to be pretty clear that this is like the end of chapter 1. But I'm going to use an example, and this MUCC is neutral in this particular regulatory proposal, but I feel like it's a good example, and that's earn a second buck. Earn a second buck, controversial, fine, but it came out of the DMI from the lower in particular, and the commission does not have the legislative authority to enact earn a second buck. They can't put conditional purchasing on tags, or however you want to look at it. They just don't have the authority to do it. And so earn a second buck was kind of placed in this long-term bucket where we'll reassess it at a time when we get the legislative authority. And there are a number of other things like that. So it's definitely not over. This isn't the only bite at the apple. The deer will probably be on the NRC agenda again next year. This was just the things that the commission felt that they could act on immediately.
Hang tight, Justin. I got to take a break. When we come back, though, I got to be honest. I'm going to ask you, is it time to get rid of the NRC? I'm not looking for an answer now, but I want you to be thinking about it, because a lot of people are asking that same question right now based on the results of the DMI and the results of the coyote season from a few months ago, too. Take a break. Lots more coming up right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show on more than 30 stations across the great state of Michigan. Also, of course, available as a podcast. Those broadcast affiliates include WBCK in Battle Creek, that's 95.3 FM. WIOS in Tawas, that's 1480 AM, 106.9 FM. And WTIQ in Manistee, 1490 AM, 95.3 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by VersaSkins. Just change your skin for the season you're in. Why buy a bunch of different sets of hunting clothes when you can buy one good quality set and snap on and zip on an outer shell of a different camo pattern? You can do it in less than a minute. If you need big sizes, 4, 5, 6X, VersaSkins can help you out. If you're a saddle hunter, VersaSkins makes a jacket specifically for that as well. The website, versaskins.com. That's versaskins.com. And I think VersaSkins, Paul Perrone, will be at the Woods and Water Show coming up in September. Right now, though, I want to continue our conversation with Justin Tomei of MUCC, MUCC.org. Justin, you are involved in things of this level up to your eyebrows. I think of you as the legislative liaison. What's your official title there at MUCC?
Policy and Government Affairs Manager.
Okay, so you eat, live, and breathe this stuff.
Yeah, every day.
Okay. I got to ask you this. I'm starting to think that maybe it's time to do something other than use the NRC, the Natural Resources Commission. And I say this because of the decision last spring to end a year-round coyote hunting season. That's when I started to think this direction. Now I feel like that they've done what they want to do regardless of what the DMI says. So the NRC is a group of appointed, I'm going to call them appointed bureaucrats. They're appointed by the governor. Is it time to get rid of the NRC and do things in a different way?
I cannot understate how emphatically I am saying no. Absolutely not. So MUCC specifically was founded on the belief of a commission model, some sort of political insulation to whatever extent possible. So that's our organizational belief. But I can go a step further with that and tell you a little more into the practical realities of why that's still the case. We got to look, and I just wrote my magazine article about this. Y'all can read about it in September. But in short, there's really three alternatives. Number one, you give it over to the legislature. So you're literally giving it over to politicians who do not make apolitical decisions. They are going to do what's best for them in the next election. Things are going to change rapidly and frequently, and our game management is at the whims of electoral politics. Having spent 20 years in electoral politics, you do not want that to happen. The next option is you could go to the ballot initiative. And so pure unbridled democracy. We've kind of seen where that leads us. Also, along with the ballot stuff, in Michigan, we're a referendum state. Anything the legislature does can automatically be referendumed by any citizen or group with the means. So even if the legislature was doing great, everything they do could be challenged at the ballot. Conservationists do not have the money to fight those fights. I would argue there's not even the unity in a lot of cases right now to do sustained fighting at the ballot. And so for all of those reasons, that's probably an even worse idea. The last option is you give it to the department. You give it to the DNR director, who basically would then have this centralized, almost unilateral authority. And somebody might say, well, that's good. They have a bunch of biologists working for them. They'll never do anything crazy. That's probably true, that the biologists would not want to do something contrary to what their work is telling them. But at the same time, Director Bowen and his staff, they're pretty great. I would argue he's doing a good job since he got appointed. I'm not really worried about what Director Bowen might do. I'm worried about the next governor's DNR director, or the one after that. We have politicians in this state that are fervent animal rights activists, and it's also not unreasonable to think they could be governor soon. And if that was the case, we could see an animal rights activist as the department director. And so no alternative exists to the commission model that is palatable in any way. The commission model is not perfect. Nobody unilaterally likes everything the commission does. The coyote thing that you talked about, we're in litigation against the commission right now, along with the trappers and predator callers. So we get it too. And what I would tell folks is that you may not like the acute decisions that the commission makes. You may not like the personalities on the commission. That's up to you as well. But the commission model, as imperfect as it is the answer as it currently stands in Michigan.
I hear what you're saying, Justin. I get it. It makes sense, and I suspected that's what you were going to say. And in fact, I was doing a live stream here in the studio before, and I was walking through these different options as well. I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated with what's going on right now, but I accept that getting carried away and trying to get rid of the commission probably isn't the best idea. But listen, you got to be frustrated too. You were part of the DMI.
I mean, I was, and I went in knowing that the commission could laugh us out of the room, and I don't want to say that they did that they like just easily disregarded everything we said, because I think there was a lot of significant thought that went into it, but I understood that was a thing that could happen. I still did my best to make sure that the product that we created was the best version of it that it could be, and personally, I have my own beliefs on all these things, but it's out of my hands now, and we got 76 days till bow season.
All right, Justin, I always appreciate your time. I'll look forward to seeing you in West Branch for that first annual fundraiser of golf outing. The website for MUCC is mucc.org, mucc.org. When we come back, I'm going to introduce you to a family-owned Michigan-based company that makes a very cool product. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Caro on WKYO 1360 AM and WIDL 92.1 FM. You can hear us in Manistee on WMLQ 97.7, and you can hear us north of the bridge in Newberry, WNBY 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Killer Food Plots. We're kind of right in between the food plot planting season, right? Spring season's over. It's not quite fall planting season yet, but you can be doing things to get ready. Rich Krizan of Killer Food Plots says, get your soil samples, get your soil samples, get your soil samples. Check them out online at killerfoodplots.com. That's killerfoodplots.com. Killer Food Plots, a family-owned Michigan-based company. I love working with Michigan-based companies, especially those that are family-owned. And when they have great products, it makes it even easier. A few weeks ago now, my nephew, Ryan, was showing me a product that he had in the back of his truck. And I thought, that thing is really slick. And he said, guess what? They're Michigan guys. So I got a hold of Andy Wiess, the guy who is one of the guys behind Truck Trolley. I got one of those truck trolleys. I put it in the back of my truck, my Garber ZR2. And I'm telling you what, it has changed everything. I used to have a broom handle back there with a hook on the end of it. My son called it my old man stick, that I would reach way over the tailgate and reach way up into the front of the bed to grab things and pull them out. Well, the truck trolley is a slidable, removable tray that allows me to access everything in the back of the truck, and it is very cool. Andy's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Hey, Andy, welcome to the show. And listen, congrats on coming up with a very cool product.
Morning, Mike. Thanks for having me. We appreciate the feedback. We love it too, and we're glad you do.
Well, I really do. You're not the first company to come up with this concept, but the fact that yours is easily removable, I think, is what sets you apart, isn't it?
Yeah. A couple of things there. There are products out there that are very, very robust. They're heavy duty. And once you put them in, you're not going to want to take them out. So you convert your truck bed to the actual platform, sliding platform, or a drawer system, which we loved, which inspired us. We wanted that convenience, but we didn't want the permanent or semi-permanent install. We wanted something that we could take out really quickly so that we could use our truck bed for that heavy-duty application when we needed it.
Well, so far I've used mine for golf clubs. I've used it for groceries. I've used it for landscaping, stone. I haven't taken it out yet, But just looking at it, it would be so easy to, because the thing is just attached to the, what do you call them, the hooks on the sides of the truck bed.
The tie downs of the truck bed. Yep. Yeah. It just installs on the tie downs of your truck bed really quick with a cord rail system. And that's what guides it in and out, stops it from going too far into the truck bed, and stops it from rocking around when you're driving. That cord rail system also limits how far you pull the trolley out, so you can adjust how far that trolley, how much access that gives you to your truck bed. And then it also stops the trolley from tipping over the truck or the tailgate if you have it extended. So that cord rail system does three different things for you. Yep.
I posted video online, a demonstration. We did a demo of how this works. You have video on your website as well, trucktrolley.com. That's trucktrolley.com, because it might be hard to kind of envision, just listening to it, how this thing works. But when you see the video, or as in my case, when I saw it in action, in person, in the back of Ryan's truck, it's like, this is slick.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing. It's a little more difficult to just explain into words. But once people see it, they just kind of naturally understand it and think, well, how am I going to use this now? How could I use this? How could it help me?
And where do we get it, Andy?
Well, you can get it at our website, trucktrolley.com. But the great thing is we've done a lot of work to get into all your local truck accessory stores and some outdoor stores. So you can get it at like locally here, Pines Accessories. You can get it at Frank's Great Outdoors. But anywhere in the state, anywhere in the country, if you have your local truck accessory store, you just drop in, tell them you want to look at a truck trolley. They can pull it up and get it for you if you're interested.
Or you can order directly from you guys, right, at trucktrolley.com?
Sure, always, yep.
And it's a fraction. I mean, it's not only is it more convenient to take out, you can take it out in just a couple of minutes, but you don't have the investment in it that you do in one of these semi-permanent or permanent installations either.
Yeah, it's about, depending on what system you're looking at, it's a little less than half to a third of the cost of those other options that are out there. And that's the other reason we wanted it too. We weren't ready to make that type of investment into our pickup truck. And so we wanted to build something that just got that convenience into the everyday truck driver, everyday truck life. And so we went through 4 or 5 iterations of this product now to get it to this point where it's ready to get in the back of people's pickup trucks.
Well, Andy Wiess of Truck Trolley, trucktrolley.com, congrats. You know that we as hunters and anglers and shooters and trappers love our trucks, hunting gear, day-to-day groceries, landscaping, golf clubs, you name it. Truck Trolley is a great product, trucktrolley.com, trucktrolley.com. Plus, it's a Michigan-based company, a Michigan-based family-owned company, trucktrolley.com. Check out the website, check out the videos. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back, Larry Jennings talks about jigging for big king salmon. Aileen Kemme from the DNR on getting kids involved in the outdoors. And then this week's Ask Avery segment coming up in Hour 2 of Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, AnglerQwest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery. Thank you, Ken Hunter, and welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. And I say this every week, and I firmly believe this. I think the best way to listen to the show, if you can, is on your local radio station. But if you live in some part of our state not covered by the broadcast signal, or if your local radio station doesn't carry all 3 hours of the show, There is a podcast version of the show that's available. You can hear that podcast, well, anywhere. I mean, well, including my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. It's also on my Facebook page. But anywhere that you listen to podcasts, you can hear the podcast version of the Outdoor Magazine radio show. And the content is exactly the same. The podcast of the Outdoor Magazine radio show is verbatim. It is the same audio. It's just made available somewhere other than on your local radio station. I also do a podcast for some of my advertising partners. Each month I do a podcast for Offshore Tackle. I do one for AnglerQwest Boats, and I do one for Primal Outdoors. So I'm a big fan of podcasting. But again, if you can listen to the radio show on your local radio station, I do believe that is the way to go. So what's going on in our state right now? This is a 3-hour show, and I don't think I could list everything. This is a very active time of year for those of us who love the great outdoors here in the great state of Michigan. These days, I am more likely to be chasing walleye on Saginaw Bay this time of year, but it used to be, right now, I'd be over on Lake Michigan, trolling for kings, king salmon, giant Chinook salmon. I'm telling you, I have never fought a fish, I've never caught a fish that fought any harder than a king. I mean, the screaming of the reel, the runs they make, they're just a big, powerful, beautiful fish. They taste great on the table, on the grill. There's nothing not to like about kings. But sometimes it feels like when you're trolling for them and you're using big, heavy gear that maybe you're not getting the complete experience. Maybe there's more there. Maybe those fish offer more than what most of us are seeing. Larry Jennings is a guy who a few years ago said, you know what, I've caught enough kings, enough salmon while trolling. I'm going to try something else. He came up with a Jonah jig. The website for that company is jonahjigs.com, jonahjigs.com. And I find this technique for targeting kings and other fish as well fascinating. And Larry's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Larry, welcome back. How are you?
Great, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing good. Is it too early in the summer to have this discussion? Should I have called you a couple of weeks from now?
Actually, you're right on time, my friend. And unfortunately, you also nailed it on the head. There's just too much to do this time of year.
That's a good problem to have, though.
It's a good problem to have. Yeah, you guys have been. I've been following you a little bit on social media there, and just you guys have been just beating up on the walleye on the other side of the state. But yeah, there's just too much going on. But yeah, actually, I got my first king last week. So yeah, so you're not too early. It really every year is a little different. But you just got to go. It's a lot like deer hunting. You just have to be out there sometimes, to nail it. And we were pleasantly surprised last week. I got my first king. I lost an absolute giant on a prototype spoon that we're developing. And then my wife, believe it or not, got a steelhead of all things.
Wow.
74-degree water in the harbor. On a 2-ounce jig, she got about an 8-pound steelhead, so pretty nuts. So yeah, but we've gotten a few kings already, believe it or not. So I had king salmon last night for dinner. So,
what made you go this route? I mean, you used to be an avid troller, weren't you?
Oh, absolutely. I grew up in a boat. So my first salmon, my first salmon was 21 pounds, and my dad was holding on to my belt loop, my feet were off the ground. I'll tell you that, like in our little boat and, our little 16, old boat, man. And, so I grew up in North Michigan area up along, so yeah, being on the big water is in my blood. And so trolling from the time I was on the pier before I could even walk. So, you know what I mean? So I was by the water all the time and then in the boat trolling. So yeah, I've done it.
Well, trolling is a great way to fish. It's very effective. It covers a lot of water. You can catch a lot of fish that way. So why try something different?
Well, it's kind of like the difference between trolling a walleye and jigging a walleye. I mean, what would you rather do?
Well,
when you're vertical jigging walleye, I mean, for real. And then you multiply that with, as you said earlier, the king salmon's power and speed and there's nothing like it. So it's it's just rod in hand fishing, So
Well, when you put it that way, I understand exactly what you're saying, because as much as I love to troll, there's nothing like having that rod in your hand when a fish bites. But when a walleye, even a big one, bites, it's not much of a fight. Now, a king, on the other hand, whoa.
Oh, you know it, too. You know it. So I already lost one. It was about a 27-pound class, between 25 and 27-pound class fish, kind of that next tier up size fish. I lost it. Man, I was so mad because it was on a new jig we're dialing in. And I was like, man, it'd been a great picture. But, you know it. You know it. So it's there's no mistake. My walleye friends, and I fish a lot of friends from the east side of the state that come up, and I walleye fish with them in the spring, and they come up here and we jig salmon. And it's funny. They've asked me in the past. Now they know, but I'm like, well, how sensitive of a rod, am I going to know? Am I going to get hit? What will the hit feel like? I said, I think you'll know when you get a bite. So it's pretty funny. So when they first tag one, it's the first one they tag, they're just like, it's like life-changing for them, I tell people.
Well, how you bring it up, what type of gear are you using? What type of rods? How sensitive?
You don't need that sensitive a rod. I really like, because that's not walleye jigging. Like I said, we're super sensitive. Really, you want something tough. You want something pretty stout. I don't go over 7 feet. My preferred for king specifically, we can talk lake trout and coho. That's another discussion. But for kings especially, I like a 6.5 foot, 6'3", basically 6'3", all the way up to 7 foot, medium heavy, and that'll get it done. So you don't need to spend a ton of money. Some of our best rods are old rods that broke, and we chopped them down and repaired them, and we're like, oh, this is perfect for king. So so you don't need to break the bank on it. That's what's really nice about jigging in this economy, especially, and things, you don't need a ton of gear to go out and have a great time. That's what's a lot of fun about it. It really makes these fish very accessible to everybody, really. I've had customers catch them out of kayaks, and
now that would be a riot.
Oh, it's funny. Oh, it's hilarious. It's quite a sleigh ride.
Are you using spinning gear? Spinning reels?
Most 90% of the time, 95% of the time, we're using spinning gear. Yeah, it's the most comfortable. I'd liken it to if anyone's jigged walleye in Detroit River. What's more comfortable? Some people prefer casting gear. Some people prefer spinning gear. I like the spinning gear and the balance of it. That's what I really like. And so for me, for kings especially, I want the strongest and lightest setup I can get. I tend to run like a 3,000. I wouldn't go any less than a 3,000. I like 4,000 reels. You got a bigger spool, quicker pickup, and but I like the lighter versions, which tend to be more expensive. But but you don't need a super sensitive rod. It's you'll know when you get hit, like I said. So it's a lot of fun.
What pound test? Are these fish line shy at all?
No, I run. If I'm running a braid setup, I'm usually doing 20 pounds. I used to run 30 back in the day. I like 20 to 30, but 20-pound braid with a 15 to 20-pound fluorocarbon leader. I like to, a few feet up, fluorocarbon, probably about a 4-foot leader, and then your jig. So it's a pretty simple setup. If I'm running mono, which some days that does affect the fall of the jig and the rate, and they're very much like walleye, where they like, if you're familiar with vertical jig and walleye, some days that different drop speed matters. They want it faster, want it slower. So sometimes you run mono as well. And then mono rods, I like to run 17 to 20 pound. Usually, or if I'm running like Maxima, I'll run 15-pound Maxima, which is, you can tow a boat with that stuff. So it's, so they're not real line shy, especially if they're drawn river mouths. Offshore, when we're fishing offshore, like off the bank, like where you traditionally troll or, open water type stuff, where we're stalking fish out there. we tend to go with longer leaders, and obviously because it's a clearer water situation.
I want to listen, Larry. That you bring up an interesting point, and I want to follow up on that. We got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. We're talking with Larry Jennings of Jonah Jigs. He's talking about jigging for big king salmon, well, and lake trout and coho as well. The website jonahjigs.com. That's jonahjigs.com. And when he mentioned the offshore jigging, now I get it. Listen, off the pier heads, in the river, the drowned river mouths where the fish are congregated, sure. But offshore? Now he's got my attention. JonahJigs.com is the website, JonahJigs.com. More with Larry Jennings coming up after the break. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold, WCBY, 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. You can hear us in Flint on Sports Extra, 1330 WTRX. And you can hear us north of the bridge. Let's go to the Sioux, WKNW, 1400 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by, well, you know this sound, right? That's the sound of my Rapid River knife locking open. I just took it out of my pocket. And it was in my pocket because I carry this thing all the time. Now, this is a new Rapid River knife. I got myself a new one. And you know what? I got another new one on order, too. This is the full-size Youper, but they've got a Youper Junior. Not the real small one, but this is one in between. I can't wait to get my hands on that. Rapid River knives, handmade by craftsmen in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. Guaranteed for life. They will sharpen these things for life. This is something you're going to buy, you're going to carry every day, you're going to use it every day, then you're going to hand it down to the next generation. If you get a chance, I would strongly encourage you to stop by their showroom on US 2 just east of Rapid River. Check out the products. You can watch your knife get engraved. If you use the promo code Avery10, you get 10% off. Or if you can't make it to the showroom, go to the website, rapidriverknifeworks.us. That's rapidriverknifeworks.us. Pick out your knife. Again, get it engraved if you want. Use the promo code Avery10, and you'll save 10%. And then you can have a knife that opens up and sounds like this as well. rapidriverknifeworks.us. Talking right now with Larry Jennings of Jonah Jigs, another Michigan-based company. Again, you know I love these Michigan-based companies. JonahJigs.com is the website, JonahJigs.com. Larry, I assumed that you were jigging for these kings in the river, off the pier heads, and the drowned river mouths. But you said something in the first segment about offshore. That's how can you do that? I mean, there's not enough of a congregation of fish, or is there?
In the right conditions, there absolutely are, and it all depends on, and if you know the trolling, you know how temperature so affects fish location, and obviously food source. They don't want to be far from the refrigerator, so they want to, they like to be able to get their meals, pretty readily available. So if you can find situations where those fish are deeper in the column, I'd say deeper than 50, 60 feet, and out in the open water, we've had you can have quite a bit of success. Hunting for them, and the advent of forward-facing sonars, and I'm already on the second generation of live scopes and all that. So that just opens a whole new world to be able to this rod in hand type of fishing, and it's a lot of fun. It's like hunting. It's purely like hunting. I mean, you are literally stalking fish out, trying to intercept their movements, and so it's a lot of fun. I will say the fish that are in the open water tend to be more of they're definitely in a feeding mode. So your bite windows tend to be longer. You can get them to react. And some days when the troll bite's just not working, that vertical presentation, if they're, especially after the troll bite can die, you can actually go hunt fish and where they're kind of laying up or whatever, and you can drop something down there, and usually you can get a reaction, and it's a lot of fun.
Oh, it sounds like. But you said not just kings, but also Lakers and cohos too, huh?
Absolutely. Oh, 100%. Yeah, lake trout are pretty. That's a pretty easier. That's a much easier fish to target, especially in the summer months when they go deeper. Again, it's all temperature related as our water heats up. These heat wave cycles that we're having, the water heats up. It just makes lake trout jigging and salmon jigging much better because it pushes them down towards the bottom. And obviously your winds affect a lot of that as well. And so, when the thermocline is pushed deep, where it's really tough, especially to troll, they're 100, temperatures down at 150, or 120 or, even 80. This gets jigging can be a lot more fun and a lot more effective. I mean, not that you can't troll that deep, but it's it makes it, they're much more susceptible. If you have a lake flip and the fish are on the surface, they're 5-6 feet down, I've had friends go with me and I said, well, we could jig or we could catch fish. So, you know what I mean? So it's not, you just got to be versatile, read the water. That's what I think I like about it. That's what I enjoy it so much. So you got to be versatile. You got to be, you got to be willing to read the conditions, and they change day to day. So, but if you're in a situation where the fish are deep, then the jig can be very effective.
When I think about jigging, my frame of reference, again, is walleye jigging, and that is almost always bouncing a jig off the bottom. But it sounds to me like sometimes you're targeting suspended fish.
Oh, 100%. Yep, 100%. So it's definitely not a, they're pelagic fish. They're open water species. So they're definitely feeding up, and they want to come up into the column. And it does not take much for a salmon to move. You got to think how quickly, even if you're 20 feet above that fish can see, I've seen them move 50 to 80 feet to come and hit a jig. They know that's in their zone. They're very aware of what's out there, and they're just, they're visual feeders, and they definitely are. Yeah, it's up in the column. So that's where your electronics really become so critical of knowing where fish are. But you can do it with 2D. We've done it with 2D, no problem. You don't need that forward facing, but you get fish down there, you see them, you want to get above them, and you'll watch them come right up and smoke it. So just like ice fishing. You've
watched fish come 50 feet to hit one of your jigs?
Oh yeah. More than that. My record with a lake trout is it was in 100 feet of water. I was burning my jig up because my buddy had a fish on. I was burning my jig up, and I'm watching him, and I am reeling as fast as I can. And I'm about 20 feet below the boat. Boom, I get smoked, and my rod just starts screaming back to the bottom. And I'm like, what in the world? I looked down. I saw this lake trout follow that jig 80 feet up off bottom, smoke it 20 feet below my boat. Crystal clear water, middle of the day. So, yeah, it's so they'll definitely move. In fact, lake trout, which are not that exciting to troll, become a lot of fun, on light tackle.
Now, is the coho jigging, is that a springtime thing? Like we would traditionally troll coho in the springtime in the southern part of the lake. When are you jigging for cohos?
Those same coho are migrating their way up the coast. So they the birthplace of all salmon in the Great Lakes is pretty fascinating, is over in Platte Bay. So, but we fish them actually in the fall. They come after the kings. So you get kings, and you'll have kings, from end of July, August, all the way through to October coming in. You'll have waves of these kings, especially in the wild. Especially you get more natural reproduction, your wild rivers where you get more wild reproduction, natural reproduction, plus the hatch, more stockings as well. But as the waves of kings are coming in, the cohos will start showing up. Usually it's late August, September into October. So yeah, but the same coho that are downstate in the spring, southern end of the lake, are making their way up to go back to their natal streams.
I remember years ago, I would see guys anchored up in the Muskegon Channel, jigging for kings.
Yep.
And I know how effective that can be. I mean, because you've got every fish that's coming into that river, he's coming right by there.
Correct.
You got a lot of fish right there.
Mm-hmm.
And they're big. At that time of year, they're as big as they're going to get. They got to be, I don't know. It used to be, remember, Larry, back in the day, I'm talking a long time ago, the DNR told us before they had a handle on this, that up in the rivers, say, the kings wouldn't feed. That's why you had to snag them, right? They wouldn't feed. Mm-hmm. That's why you had to snag them. Well, we certainly know that's not the case anymore.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So when they come
Especially
when they come into these drowned river mouths, are you then bouncing off the bottom, or are you still fishing suspended fish?
No, we're fishing off bottom. In the ideal situation, let's take Muskegon for example. That's where I grew up. I grew up in North Muskegon, and that's where I caught my first fish doing it years and years ago. But I remember trolling by those guys. There were a few guys out there, and we only had a few jig options. That's why I started making my own, because I took all my trolling knowledge and my, and my tackle making knowledge, and just to see it work. And here we are. We're talking today. We ship all over the country. It's nuts, yeah, we are jigging, say, in Muskegon River, or Muskegon, like by the mouth of the channel, the Sand Docks area. People are familiar with that. Did a show with Michigan Outdoors years ago. Kind of broke the story on some of this a long time ago. But, yeah, you're kind of in that 35 to 40 foot zone. And when you see fish coming near bottom, probably that bottom 10 feet, that's when they're ripe for the jig bite. It's very hard to troll in there. It's very hard. And that's when you want, if they're obviously on the surface, that, upper 10, 15 feet of water in the column, then jigging is definitely not as effective. You want to be, but we're never bouncing it on the bottom. It's not a walleye. They don't feed down into the mud. They are up, their eyes are on top of their head. They want to come up and smoke it. We've watched fish. In fact, biggest fish I lost this year, still breaking my heart. That was a nice fish, hot chrome out of the lake. I watched it come up on the scope, came right up underneath it, was completely vertical, came up and just smoked the jig right from the, you know what I mean? Like, we're talking completely vertical. I meant horizontal. I meant vertical, coming straight up vertical right up under the jig and smoked it.
Are they gonna hit on the drop? Are you gonna feel them when you lift, or how what's that like?
It's I tell people you want like a semi-slack line. So you want that jig to flutter down, but you want to be in contact with it. You want it to, where like a walleye jig, you're kind of setting it on bottom, you're setting it. You don't want to drop it and lose contact with it. With my jigs, you want a kind of semi-slack line, because it's that drop. You're exactly right. That drop is when they're going to smoke it. And as it comes by, yeah. And so what you're doing is you're kind of you're snapping it fast and then letting it flutter down. Snap and then let it flutter. But you want to remain in contact. So it's a semi-slack, slight bow in your line. And then you'll sometimes just feel a tick because you're without, and then you go to jig again, and it's like you're stuck on bottom. I mean, it's so we've had them eat every way, but it's mostly on the drop. But yeah, we literally had them jig. You're standing there jigging, and you drop your rod tip, and your line's just pulled up on the top of the water, and you're like, uh-oh, and you see a fish already out. He's already, he's cleared 30, 40 feet already. He's already in the air when you're jigging.
Larry, this sounds like an absolute riot. I appreciate the fact that you've kind of pioneered this technique and refined it. I'd send people to your website, jonahjigs.com, jonahjigs.com. I wish you good fishing, and we'll talk again.
Thank you, my friend. You too.
All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about getting kids involved in the outdoors, and we'll wrap up the hour with this week's Ask Avery question. That's coming up right here in Hour 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on the Twister 92.1 WTWS. You can hear us in, let's go to Holland, WHTC 1450 AM, 99.7 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Iron Mountain, WMIQ 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination. Great people, great facilities, great location, great campground. The AnglerQwest Owners Tourney is coming up at Linwood Beach Marina here next weekend. Looking forward to that. If you want to fish Saginaw Bay for walleye, perch, pike, whatever, I think Linwood Beach is a great place to hit the water. Check out their website, linwoodbeachmarina.com. That's linwoodbeachmarina.com. I talk quite frequently here on the Outdoor Magazine Show about how we want to get as many people involved in the outdoors as we can. And, of course, these days, one of the challenges is getting young people involved in the outdoors. Aileen Kemme is the coordinator for the Nature Awaits Communications project, and she's with me now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Aileen, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm interested in learning what this is all about. Tell me more, please.
Well, Nature Awaits is a new education initiative from the Michigan Department of Natural Resources. Our goal is to get every fourth grade class in Michigan outside to a state park on a free field trip. And what I love about this program is it's not gimmicky. It's legitimately a free field trip of 90 minutes of hands-on interactive learning out at a state park, exploring and experiencing nature. We'll take you out on the trails, show you the waterfront, show you what makes Michigan so beautiful. And then at the end of the trip, the kids all get a pass to come back to a state park of their choice with their families.
Every fourth grader in the state, that's a pretty big goal.
It's ambitious, but we have a really dedicated and amazing team, and I think we can pull it off for sure. We've already had close to 11,000 people, students go through the program this year. 3,000 are enrolled for the program this fall. We're hosting the field trips at 30 different locations throughout the state. So if you know a fourth grader or you know a fourth grade teacher, we probably have a field trip location close to you.
Yeah, that was my next question. How does this all work? Say if I've got a grandkid or a kid involved in fourth grade, or if I know a teacher, I mean, what's the process?
Well, to sign up for a field trip, you're going to want to go to our website, michigan.gov/natureawaits. And you can search for a field trip site based off of a particular park. Like we have as our most popular park right now is Belle Isle. So if you know that you want to take your students to Belle Isle, you can search for that one, or you can just check out our different regions because we have the state divided up in a map where you can check out what is available around you. Most schools are trying to stay within about an hour of their school for the field trip, but we have some kids who are coming from downstate, stopping at northern parks on their way up to Mackinac Island or something like that.
Are all of the state parks involved?
No, we just have 30 of the locations, but for the free pass that they get at the end of the trip, they can use that at any of the state parks.
And these are school-sanctioned field trips, or are these trips that are done on their own, say, with the family?
These are with their class. So it'll be the fourth grade teacher that signs up for the field trip, the fourth grade teacher that goes along with them. And then afterwards, when they get the free pass, they can go back to the park and explore with their families.
I think this is a very cool project. How long has this been around, Aileen?
We launched this spring, and we had about 7,000 students go through the program from across the state. It's been really fun to see. A lot of kids this spring, they were out there for their end of the year field day celebration. So they were just so excited to get out and learn and celebrate as a class, like everything they had accomplished that year. So it was really fun to see the energy.
Can parochial school and private school kids get involved in this too?
Yes. We want to get as many kids as possible involved with the program. So you could be from a private school, a charter school, anything like that. You are welcome to go to our website and sign up for a trip. The only thing is that we can't offer you the transportation reimbursement. That is only available to public schools. So the trip itself will still be free for everybody, but if you are coming from a private school or something like that, you do have to figure out your own transportation.
Gotcha. So the website to sign up to learn more is michigan.gov/natureawaits.
Yeah.
Michigan.gov/natureawaits. Aileen, I think this is a very cool project, a great idea. Anything to get kids involved in the outdoors, I am all in favor of. So congrats on this, and keep up the good work.
Thank you. Hopefully we'll see more kids out on the trails this fall, learning about what makes Michigan so great and why it's so important to explore our outdoors.
Absolutely. Aileen Kemme of the Nature Awaits program from the DNR. The website, michigan.gov/nature awaits is where you can learn more and sign up. And the website for the Michigan DNR in general is michigan.gov/DNR. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, this week's Ask Avery segment. This time I'm pulling in the other big guy, Brad Dupuie, Mr. AnglerQwest himself, to answer a question that was sent to me. And coming up in hour number 3, we're getting ready for the fall hunting season, bow hunting in particular, with Dave Thomas of Bowhunter Planet. That's all coming up right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Houghton Lake on 98.5 WUPS. You can hear us in Lansing on WILS 1320 AM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Escanaba on WCHT 600 AM 93.5 FM. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by the good folks at Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. The way this segment works is this is your chance to pose a question to get involved in the content of the show. It's a question you want me to answer, that you want me to pass along to somebody else. The best way to get those questions to me is to send me an email. And the address is mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. That's mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. This week's question comes from John Graves. He sent me an email, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. He says, "Hey, Mike, I know you run an AnglerQwest and have said good things about that boat. I am considering one, but I understand things are changing there. You had Brad Dupuie on earlier in the summer, and he talked about a prototype boat he was working on. I can't find anything about the status of that. Can you help me out? I know you and Brad are good friends." I am good friends with Brad, and I appreciate everything he's done at AnglerQwest. In fact, he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line to answer this week's Ask Avery question. Brad, welcome back. How are you?
We're doing great, Mike. We're doing great. Excited to talk about the new chapter in AnglerQwest, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
Well, and I'm glad to be a part of it as well in some little small peripheral way. But what is going on, Brad? What's the status?
Well, the status is we are in the process of building a prototype. Quite honestly, we were hoping to have this prototype done here a few weeks ago. But when you go and build the first one, you run into a lot of little things you don't expect. This particular boat is a full-bore 24-26 AnglerQwest Pro Troll, and it's actually coming along very nicely. The interior of the boat and everything of that nature, the helm stand, the helm captain's seat, the furniture, the workstation in the back, they are all complete and on the boat now, along with the walls. And I'm actually going to be doing a little design review tomorrow, and we're in the midst of it. We will have a prototype of the new generation AnglerQwest very soon.
Was there something wrong with the old AnglerQwests? Is that what's going on here, Brad, or what?
Well, I wouldn't say anything was wrong. There needed to be improvements done for durability of the tubes, to rod holder storage in the binary walls, to more accessible battery and battery switches in the rear workstation, a more heavy-duty workstation in the rear, just a lot of things like that were stagnant at Apex Marine and did not get accomplished. And now moving forward with me having that brand, and I'm heading it all up and own the brand, and I'm excited to be able to address all the things that are hanging out there to make the product even better than what it always was before.
So with this prototype, I mean, I suspect you'll be running it on Saginaw Bay to check it out and test it out. I mean, but where will people be able to see this? Is there a new website? Do you have to see it in person? How does this all work, Brad?
Well, honestly, it's something that'll have to be done in person at the present time. The whole acquisition of AnglerQwest and the purchase of that brand has taken quite a bit of time, and the paperwork that's affiliated to that. And until that gets closed on, which is just a few weeks away, once that happens, then there'll be a website. There will be the Facebook page. You'll be able to see all that stuff. So we're in the midst of that whole process right now. So people should just stay tuned, be patient. I think what John is asking is, since he couldn't find anything online, he was wondering if the process was still in process, and you're telling me absolutely it is. Oh, it is very much in process. This is, as you know, a product that is near and dear to my heart and that I believe in, and a lot of people believe in as well. And boy, I'm excited as can be to be able to continue that legacy of such a great product.
Well, Brad, will you do this, please? When there is something concrete, or when there is a new Facebook page or a website, because a lot of people are watching this, let me know so I can share that information with our friends. Will you?
I absolutely will. I look forward to that, and I will keep you in the loop 100%, Mike.
Appreciate that. Real quick before we let you go, how's the fishing been?
Fishing has been fantastic. It has been a great season. We still have an incredible amount of fish right in the inner bay here. We have a ton of bait. We actually are being set up to have a really good August, and it's been a while since we've seen that. So fishing has been fantastic. Out of Linwood Beach Marina, the inner bay here has been just top-notch.
Excellent. All right, Brad, I'll look forward to talking to you again about AnglerQwest and about fishing and just shooting the breeze in general. So let's stay in touch.
Sounds great. I appreciate it, Mike.
And I appreciate Mr. AnglerQwest, Brad Dupuie, joining me, as well as appreciate the fact that John Graves reached out with a question for this week's Ask Avery segment. And, of course, again, a big thank you to the folks at Security Credit Union for making each week's Ask Avery segment possible. You can check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. We'll take a break here for the top of the hour on Outdoor Magazine. When we come back in our third and final hour this week, we're going to switch gears and start thinking about the fall hunting season. It's not that far away. We're going to talk with Dave Thomas of Bowhunter Planet. He's going to get us ready for the fall bow hunting season. And, of course, we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. My name is Mike Avery. This show is called Outdoor Magazine. My website is MikeAveryOutdoors.com, and my email address is mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I'd love to hear from you, and I hope you can stick around for hour 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, AnglerQwest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery. Thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. Is radio still a thing? Absolutely, radio is still a thing. Radio, I'm going to say, I look at it as the original form of electronic mass communication. And I think it is still very viable today. Throughout my career, I've kind of seen all different forms of communication, right? I mean, I started out in television. Broadcast television. My Outdoor Magazine television show was eventually seen on, say, the Outdoor Channel, which was, cable TV, basically, for lack of a better term. Started dabbling around with radio on the side, got out of television, turned radio into my main deal, best professional move I made in my entire career. Trust me on that one. And now radio and podcasting and social media are kind of how I get the word out. So I think I have been fairly flexible throughout my career in using technology to reach people. But the goal has always been just that, to reach people, with the bigger concept of promoting the outdoors to as many people as I can, to encourage as many people as I can to get involved in hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping. I do that, well, for many reasons. For me, it's part of my DNA. It's who I am. It's my family's history and tradition is as folks who love the outdoors. I think our state's history and tradition, in large part, revolves around outdoor recreation and going up north and going deer hunting and getting out there. In that way, I think Dave Thomas and I are quite similar. Dave Thomas, the man behind Bowhunter Planet, bowhunterplanet.com, I think is an absolute, and I use this word intentionally, I think he's an absolute genius when it comes to using social media and developing audiences and communities around a theme. And in this case, the theme has been bow hunting and encouraging people to get into bow hunting and hunting in general. And he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line to talk about this and other topics as well. Hey, Dave, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Hey, Mike. Thanks for having me.
So listen, am I correct in saying that part of your goal, part of your reason is for being out there and doing what you do is to encourage people to get involved in what we love so much?
Absolutely. Yeah. Through the years, I think it's been, growing up a kid in Michigan in an urban area, I always thought it was really hard for kids to get outdoors and hunt and try to find that set of friends that would do it with you. And even for me, like in high school, I would say like 4 people maybe bow hunted. That was it. So my whole thought was, how do I flip the switch here over time and create something that I mean, we all know to do it. You know, we just love the whole hunt, everything about it, the archery part of it, the gun hunting part of it. I mean, there's just a lot to it, but the fun part is, how do you get those people involved in it and enjoy themselves, right? And find that passion for the outdoors and getting outside.
Dave, can we give you a call back? This connection is going to drive me bonkers. Maybe we can get a better connection. Can we call you right back?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. Maybe it'll work, John. Maybe it won't. But I know it would bother me to listen to that conversation over that phone line for that long. And you know, talking about technology and reaching people, cell phones have been an absolute great invention for me here, because it used to be, you know, you had to talk to somebody over a phone, a landline. Now I can reach out to people on a cell phone when they're on the water or in the woods or wherever they are, but sometimes those connections aren't so good. It would be good enough for you and I to just have a conversation over the phone, but when we're recording it, you know, to put out over the air and then put out over 30 different stations and then do a podcast version of, I like to get as good of quality as signal and audio as we can. Let's try it again, Dave. So listen, I appreciate you joining me. You know this. I'm a big fan and have much respect for what you do.
Thanks. Can you hear me now?
Much better. Much better. Appreciate that so very much. So tell me about what you guys are all about. Bowhunter Planet, bowhunterplanet.com, but you're everywhere. You're everywhere. You're all over social media.
Yeah, we've been doing it a while, since 2009. And again, the goal has always been just to get people enjoying the outdoors and trying to get the companies that in the industry to recognize that and to start moving funding towards those type of things and getting more people moving through social media. I mean, we all know, and you spoke about in your intro about the Outdoor Channel and TV and all that, and that's great. It was a wonderful thing during the time. But as time has gone on, obviously the internet has dominated the segment of media and where people are going to get their information. So now it was time for companies to start flipping the switch and getting more involved in that. And it's important because you need those funds to help push and spread the message, you know, to be able to give products away and to reach new areas. The cool thing about the internet has been we can reach anywhere. So we can really work on different groups of people. We can work on different segments that normally don't do it, like camping, people who camp. We can work on, hey, you know, if you're a camper, maybe consider shooting an archery bow. You ever thought about doing that while you're camping? Or an ATV or ORV person, you know, a biker, a mountain biker. So it just allows for different segments and to try to get into new areas.
Well, and you can reach these people, and you can do it for minimal cost. You don't have to pay the exorbitant rates like, say, the Outdoor Channel was charging their producers. And this is a sore spot for me. And the reason I got out of it is that they were holding their producers hostage, having to do things the way they wanted them done, and they were charging ridiculously high rates. Well, these days, their audience isn't big enough to justify those rates, and more and more people, yourself included, realize that online content production and distribution is certainly the way to go.
Absolutely, yeah. I think there's also something to say about making money. So a lot of companies like Outdoor Channel, they're there to make a profit, right? They're trying to make money while they do this. Whereas things like what we're doing, I'm not saying we don't make money, but we're not after money. It's not our only thing here. We're trying to use that money to help promote the sport of archery because we want to, because we love archery. It's not about money. It's not about fame. It's literally just about how do we share this passion, because, who else is going to do it? So we decided that we just got to do something. We can't just sit here and do nothing about it.
So this time of year, midsummer here, what type of content are you guys producing? Is it product review? Is it getting ready for the season? What are you doing right now, Dave?
Yeah, so we start, a lot of companies start these, what they call mid-cycle launches. So they'll do launch stuff like Moultrie right now is a great example. They just launched their whole new trail camera series. So they've asked us to help with that. We've been helping with them to get their stuff going. We start looking at bow setups, for the year. But again, most of the time we don't, like right now we're on hiatus. We usually take July off and we come back August 1st and start getting right into it. And when we come back August 1st, generally we go right into bow reviews that are out there. We go into best value reviews. We go into setup reviews and videos like that, and then we promote that. And sometimes those are long format videos, like on YouTube, like horizontal, but majority of the videos now are going vertical, and they're going on TikTok and Reels and Shorts because it's just what's reaching people faster and much more views right now.
When you look at product and gear and stuff these days, I'm convinced that our gear is better than ever, but some of it we're paying the long dollar for too.
Yeah, that's actually interesting, Mike. You brought that up. So yes, the thing about the marketplace is that you have to look at it in different areas. And the thing is this: when consumers are interested in bows and crossbows and whatever it is, there's always a high level price, right? If you want, like, if you're a golfer and you want the best, club, you're going to spend $2,000. If you're maybe more, you're going to pay a lot of money. So the point is, yes, there's going to be segments across the board. Is that what you need to get the job done, to just be an archer or just be a regular bow hunter? Absolutely not. You don't need any of that. You can get away with the bare minimum. And we actually worked a deal, and this is actually a really cool thing for your audience as well, and they can all use this. We worked a deal with Bear Archery to help give a percentage off to everybody to try to get into archery on any bow they sell on their website, including crossbows and Cajun archery and stick broadheads, anything they have. If people use the code BHP 2024, they can take 20% off of any of that. And the reason they did that, and I talked them into doing that, is because we needed to have a segment where people could afford to get into it, right? So now you can go on there and find a bow that's $500 and you get 20% off of that just because they want you to get into archery. And it was a really big deal. And I think it's been helping a lot of people get into the sport over the last few months.
So this is beararchery.com. Use the promo code BHP 2024, Dave?
Correct. Yeah, they'll give the consumer 20% off, which is an absolute steal for some of the packages. The bow like the Paradigm, the Legit, all these bows will get the job done. They will get you into archery. You can learn how to do the sport. They come ready to hunt packages, so you don't have to worry about, what do I need for it because I don't know. Now you'll have all that there. And what we've been doing is creating videos that you can go on our website, bowhunterplanet.com, on our YouTube, and it'll show you anything you need to know about once you get that bow. So like how to get it to your draw length, how to adjust the peep yourself. And this is important because people should really understand how to use the product fully and not just go to a pro shop. They should really understand the product. So if you understand it, it's going to help you in the long run.
Dave, this is very exciting. Hang tight. I want to follow up on this. We're talking with Dave Thomas of Bowhunter Planet, bowhunterplanet.com, bowhunterplanet.com. I love the fact he's working very closely with Bear Archery. If you go to their website, beararchery.com, use the promo code BHP2024, you get 20% off. That helps. That helps a lot. We'll take a break. More with Dave Thomas coming up right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Ludington on News 97.98, 98.7 WLDN. You can hear us over on the other side of the state, out in the thumb. Sandusky, WMIC, 660 AM, 95.3 FM. And you can hear us in Traverse City on WTCM, 580 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Premier Maritime Training. If you've ever wanted to get your captain's license, I think this is your best bet. Captain John Littlefield taught my captain's class, and he can help you become a licensed charter captain as well. Check out the website, pmtcaptains.com, for more info. That's pmtcaptains.com. John has classes across the state, and I'm sure you can find one that fits your schedule. That's pmtcaptains.com. Right now, I'm talking with Dave Thomas of Bowhunter Planet, bowhunterplanet.com. In my opinion, Bowhunter Planet, the definitive online source for all things bow hunting and archery. Dave, you guys have been at this for a long time now. You've got a great job. And again, I think you're doing a great job, Dave, so congrats.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate that.
So you were talking before the break about the concept of buying a package, a pre-packaged bow setup for bow hunting. Is that a good idea?
Absolutely, yeah. One of the things that people don't think about, and it happens a lot in the archery world, is they don't think about longevity of extra products. So, for instance, if it's cheaper to buy the package, right? So, like if you buy the package, you're actually going up it's like $100, so you get everything pretty much you need to get, besides arrows, but to shoot the bow. And the thing is, even if you don't want those products, you should still buy the package because you can keep those as backup products. This past year, we created our own product called the Team BHP Archery Repair Kit. And what that was is basically those products all wrapped up in a little case that people could buy online and have a backup. And what that means is, like, if you're out bow hunting and let's say you knock your sight and it breaks a piece off or something happens, you'll have a backup plan when you're in the field. A lot of us go up north. We're there for a week at a time. There might not be a pro shop that close to us, so we can't get it fixed. So we created that product to help those people. If you just carry one in your bag, you got everything you need to get yourself repaired. But when you talk about these packages, you should always buy the package because you get a lot of those same concepts ahead of time, and you get to keep those even if you don't want them. And when Bear Archery and us, made this deal to give people this promo, I also talked them into doing it with Trophy Ridge so that if you want to buy the package or a bear bow, when I say bear, I mean BARE, you can still buy their accessories separately, like higher end ones, and still get the 20%. So if you wanted to outfit it yourself with better stuff, you can still do it. But I always recommend the package. It's worth the extra amount of money. It's very small.
Michigan, in my opinion, going back to the days, I guess, of Fred Bear, has kind of been a hotbed of archery. We got a lot of archery companies right here, don't we?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
And I think that I don't know. I mean, Bear Archery is no longer here, but I still feel like they have a connection to us here in Michigan.
Absolutely, yeah. When people think of Fred Bear, they always think of Grayling. They think of Michigan. The Bear Archery Company is just an amazing company. It has so much history behind it. Them plus the company who bought them originally. There's a lot of historical pieces for all the companies involved in that company today. So it's actually a really cool thing and a lot of history. And I think that, the Bear Archery brand is one of the most perfect brands for Michiganders because it's just the right price point. You don't need the high-end bow all the time to do what we do. We hunt a lot of flat ground, a lot of thick woods. Most people who hunt out west are using different brands because they need to reach a distance that's maybe 80, 60 yards of flat, our hills and mountains. So there's a little bit of difference between them, right? Also the quality of product. So a lot of people here, you don't need metal. You don't need metal for sights. You don't need aluminum. You don't need that because a lot of us are taking the ball out of a case, walking 30 yards to a tree stand and going up. So you're not going through rough, rigged, whereas like a black gold sight or an HHA, those are built like tanks. They're made to take hits in the mountains and take hits anywhere, So there's a lot of options there. But again, for basic Michiganders who are going out, weekend warriors, all that, I truly do feel you could get away with a very good bow for a low price.
Do you guys do anything with traditional archery? I realize it's a small market, but it's a very hardcore. I mean, the recurve guys, the longbow guys. Do you do anything in that direction at all, Dave?
We do a very small amount with Bear Archery, actually. We do show off some of their bows. The problem, Mike, to be honest, is, as you know, that group is very, very knowledgeable about that area, and it's very hard to learn it. It seems simple, but it's really not. There's like a lot of woods and different ways they make things. So we haven't done a ton. I would love to have done more. I just don't have the right resource to have I would need a person dedicated to it only, you know. And there's not a lot of companies who make traditional bows. It's very minimal. And Bear's probably the biggest out of all of them, you know, because they're obviously so large already. But yeah, not a ton, but we do, you know, time and time again, we do show some traditional equipment.
Where do crossbows fit into the picture these days? A few years ago, like when they first, you know, became legal to hunt for anybody here in Michigan, there was this big boom, but I feel like it's kind of leveled off. What's the ratio? What's the makeup these days?
Yeah, I would absolutely say for sure it's leveled off. I mean, I think we're at a point now where everybody who is a bow hunter and or a gun hunter has picked up a crossbow. Here's the thing I'll say about crossbows for those who might not know this, and it's very important. So Gas Bowstrings is one of our sponsors of our show, our podcast, and all that. And I had this conversation with them about strings and cables, and we talked about crossbows and bows. It's actually recommended that for any crossbow, you change out your cables and strings every 2 years. And for those who are shooting over 400 feet per second, they recommend every year. So things like the Raven 500, the 10-point 515 now. I mean, there's some really heavy hitter crossbows out there, but you got to remember those strings and cables are under a ton of pressure, and you have to, you have to change those. I mean, you don't let that go because they can just break in the case, like literally. But as far as ratio goes, I would say that, it's probably, to compound bows, it's probably 50-50, honestly.
50-50,
I think
yeah.
most people have it. Most people have one, though. Like I have one. Every hunter I work with or know, they have a crossbow and a bow. So I would say it's probably a 50-50. As far as what they're using in the field, most bow hunters I know go out with their compound for 2 or 3 hunts. Then if it's rainy or they want to go on a ground hunt, they switch to a crossbow, and that includes myself. So I think that's kind of how it's going.
I find it very interesting you brought that up about the strings and cables, because I ran into this personally. I decided I wanted to, go to a higher end crossbow, so I went up to Jay's and I bought myself a 10-point, and it was not cheap. I mean, it was not and it wasn't their highest end 10-point. It was just a 2-year-old high end bow. And I know from talking to you in the past, that's a good way to go because you get decent technology and you save a few bucks. What I didn't know and didn't realize is because even that 2-year-old bow, 2-year-old technology, there was so much energy stored in there that, again, they recommended you swap out those strings and cables. But I was shooting enough, Dave, being an old compound guy and an old recurve guy, that I wanted to shoot the bow and I wanted to be proficient with it and just have fun with it. I was shooting it enough where I had to end up changing them out twice in 1 year.
Wow.
And that adds up. That's not a cheap process.
No, not at all. That's why when we did this, we learned a lot about strings and cables. I was so happy when Gas came on because I learned a lot more instantly from the conversations I had with Eric there. But it's a big market because of that, and there are companies, and I will throw this out there, Prime, so a G5 Prime, a Michigan company, they do offer free strings and cables on their compounds on a certain model. So if you buy the little bit higher level, every 2 years they'll swap them for free, which is pretty sweet, really, when you think about it. That's a really nice thing to do. And I don't think a lot of people actually take advantage of it. They actually buy the bows. I think they forget, and they don't actually do it, which is crazy.
It might be too early in the season, too early in the year to be talking about broadheads. That's such a personal choice. I mean, are you out practicing with broadheads at this point, or do you wait until August or September to start doing that?
Yeah, we only do practice. We don't practice with broadheads now. We actually just do broadhead testing right now, which will start again in August. But generally, I practice with all of them when I'm closer, but I'm a type of person, because I'm doing a lot of testing for these companies. I have 5 different broadheads on my quiver. And so I will shoot each one or 2 or 3 times, and then I'll, put that on each head because it depends on what I'm trying to do or, if I need a follow-up shot or what's going to happen. But yes, broadheads are very subjective, and everybody's had a good experience and a bad experience with almost every single one.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to pinpoint what's the best. I always tell people, check out some of the smaller guys like Rec Broadheads in Michigan. They're from Frankenmuth, right? Check out some of these smaller guys just for fun and help them out, give them a chance. Try something new.
I'm a big fan of Rec. I'm shooting Recs. I think they do a great job. And I was just going to ask, of the 5 broadheads in your quiver, I'll bet you more than one are from Michigan.
Well, for sure, one's a wreck broadhead, one's an annihilator. I had a Montec, and I also have the, I think it's called the dead meat. So 2 G5 ones in there. And then I had, what was the other one I was working with? I think it's called the Shank by Muzzy. But yeah, so it just depends on what I'm doing. And those will change out too, again, and over and over. It's kind of like, it's a rotating thing because there's so many and there's so many companies. I mean, it's literally incredible the amount of broadhead companies in the industry.
Is the Bowhunter Planet crew, are you guys going back to Ontario on a bear hunt anytime soon?
That's what I get a hold of you about eventually. That's one of our goals, is to get back there when Mr. Avery here is going. So that's one of the things we talked about, trying to find a year that we can all go and make this happen. Now, Kevin pulled his bear permit for Michigan this year, so we're probably not going this year because of that. We'll be spending time in the Upper Peninsula to try to help him accomplish get a bear down there.
What season, what area did he get, Dave?
I don't exactly. If you said the name, I know it, but it's somewhere up. It's the first week, and it's somewhere up around Marquette.
Okay, so he's got the first season, because I got my bear tag as well, and I have the third season in the Newberry district, and I'm going to be hunting with my 10-point with my crossbow. Absolutely, yeah.
Newberry, is that around Marquette?
Different. I think it's two different areas. I don't think Marquette is in the Newberry area, but it could be.
Okay.
But I'll be up there with Johnny Bowler, the Bear Whisperer. Looking forward to that.
Nice.
And yeah, I would love maybe next year. Maybe next year we can plan a trip to White River with Ron St. Louis of Northern Wilderness Bear Outfitters and do that again.
That was an incredible experience, yeah. And just getting the was it called poutine, the fries with the gravy.
Yeah, that's part of the trip too. All right, Dave, listen, always a pleasure. I would encourage people to go to your website, bowhunterplanet.com, bowhunterplanet.com. And I love this promo with Bear Archery. Go to beararchery.com. And Avery, have no affiliation with Bear, but I do have respect. Beararchery.com. Use the promo code BHP2024, BHP2024, and save 20% off on your order. So that's a big deal, Dave. Congrats on that. Thanks, and we'll talk again.
Thanks.
Dave Thomas of Bowhunter Planet, bowhunterplanet.com, bowhunterplanet.com. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. A few more things I want to talk about, and then we'll come back and wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire, Dixie Dave Minar, the man, the myth, the wild game cooking legend, Dixie Dave Minar. That's coming up right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Muskegon on WKBZ. That's 1090 AM. And you can hear us on the other side of the state in Saginaw on WSGW. Two stations, WSGW AM 790 AM and FM 100.5 FM. I'm in the studios, right? Oh, and one more, WSJM in St. Joe 94.9 FM. I am not in the studios of WSJM, but I am in the studio of WSGW. This is where I record the show each week. Work very closely with those folks. I'm in here today with Jonathan Dent. John, doing a great job. Appreciate that. Thank you so very much. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Reader Landscaping. Reader can take care of your lawn and property because it's your nature and our nurture. Let Reader create an outdoor getaway in your backyard. They've done so much work for me, and I don't have a big yard. In fact, it's quite a small yard, but it's really, between the work that we have done and the work that the folks at Reader have done, it's a very nice little getaway in our part of the world. I just called Reader again. I said, hey, the trees at the corner of the house are like, they're getting out of control. Can you send some guys over and trim them up? They said, yep, we'll be over there in the next couple of weeks or so. So they're from planning. Well, let's go back. From maintenance in the springtime, the summertime, fall, and winter, to planning, to construction, to maintenance. The folks at Reader can do it all. I'm talking about some small projects like ours, like stone beds and water features, to big projects like outdoor patios, outdoor kitchens, pools. Reader can take care of it. Check them out online at readerlandscaping.com. That's readerlandscaping.com. I look back at the conversations on this week's show. I try to make every show as informative and educational and entertaining as I can. But I think this week we've covered some really interesting topics. Going back to the first hour with Justin Tomei of MUCC regarding the NRC's recent rulings on deer hunting this fall. And the fact that he said, look, you might not like the NRC, but what are the options? And believe me, I don't like the current NRC. I'll tell you that right now. I think they've made some very disappointing decisions. Justin says, what are the options? You want to let the legislature do it? You want to let the politicians decide? Well, no, I don't. Do you want to let the voters decide? Absolutely not. Do you want to let the DNR decide? Well, okay, maybe, because the DNR is supposed to have the experts in there, right? They are the ones who know the issues inside and out. But Justin says, you don't want to give the DNR the ultimate authority, because what if the wrong DNR director comes in there? Okay. All right. I will reluctantly agree that the NRC is the way to go, although I'm just not happy with what they're doing right now. And Larry Jennings talking about, jigging for salmon. I've never caught a salmon while jigging, but I think it would be so much fun. Dave Thomas from Bowhunter Planet talking about the state of bow hunting today. I love what they're doing with bear archery. And again, I have no affiliation with bear archery at all. But I do have a respect for those guys, because I think they make some very good quality bows at a very good price. Justin was also, I was kidding Justin too, Justin Tomei of MUCC in the first hour there, about getting his golf game around. And the reason I was saying that is the golf outing is coming up here very soon. It's coming up Monday, July 29th at the West Branch Country Club. And we're calling it the first annual Mike Avery Outdoors Charity Golf Outing. And it is to benefit MUCC's youth camp. Last spring, on a Wednesday Night Live, we were just shooting the breeze with people. And I said, I have some goals for this summer. I want to fish more, which is always a goal. And I want to play more golf. I like golf. I find it a very interesting game. It gets you outside. It gets if you walk the course, that's a lot of walking. It's good exercise. And it's such a mental game, right? So I'm fascinated by golf. I like golf. I'm not very good at it, but I love golf. And somebody said, well, look, why don't you have a golf outing? I'm like, well, I never thought of having a golf outing before. Why should I have a golf outing? And through the conversation, it was like, okay, well, you can use these golf outings as fundraising events. Okay, well, now you've got my attention. But if I'm going to be involved in a fundraising event and put my name on it, it's going to be an outdoor-related event. And I immediately thought of MUCC, and their youth camp. Anything I can do to help get kids involved in the outdoors, I'm all in. So the whole concept kind of snowballed. I said, look, I will be involved. I will help promote it. I will help generate money as much as I can. I will get people involved, but I don't want to run the thing, right? I don't want to add that to my list of things to do. Well, fortunately, the folks at MUCC have people on staff who are very good at such things. In this case, a guy named Steve Wyndham. I've had Steve on the radio show here before, but he is really, really good at organization and getting things done and details and setting things up. And Steve has done a wonderful job with this golf outing. You never know with a first-year event how things are going to turn out, but I'm optimistic. I'm cautiously optimistic. I think this is going to be a good event. I mean, we're sold out. We've got a full field of golfers. We have a waiting list. We might be able to sneak in a few more. We're trying to figure out how to make this happen. If you go to the website mucc.org/golf, you can sign up to be on the waiting list as a player. Maybe we can get you involved. Or if you like the concept of helping out MUCC's youth camp to get kids involved in the outdoors, you can still become a sponsor of this event, and you can still donate product that we are going to raffle or auction off at the event to raise more money. In fact, I just talked to Chris Durson at Rapid River Knives. He's going to send a knife down. We've got a primal blind we're going to give away, one of the new harvesters. Andy Wiess from Truck Trolley has given us a truck trolley to give away, to auction off, all to raise money. The website, mucc.org/golf. That's mucc.org/golf. There's still time to get involved. Love to have you join us. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef Dixie Dave Minar right here on Outdoor Magazine. Thank you so much for spending time with me here this week on the Outdoor Magazine radio show, whether you're listening to the radio version or the podcast. Thank you. Appreciate it so very much. Again, as always, if you can, I think the best way to listen to this show, if you can, is on your local radio station. I make the podcast available each weekend, but I don't upload the podcast until after the radio stations have had a chance to air the show, because I appreciate their partnership and access to their airtime. Airtime is very valuable. So the fact that I get access to their airtime, I'm going to protect them. So I do not upload the podcast version of the show until after the broadcast stations have aired the content. If you have listened to the broadcast show or the podcast, you know I wrap up each week's show with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. He's along with us once again. David, welcome back.
Hi, Michael. How are you doing today?
Wonderful. I'm thinking back to last week's show, and we came up with this crazy idea of coming up with a crazy recipe this week. Remind me, what did we talk about?
Well, it's not really crazy. It's for sheephead, and it's a byproduct of trolling for walleye. You know, sheephead are a pretty predatory fish because they'll attack your walleye lures with vim and vigor.
And they fight really like crazy, don't they?
A big one really puts up a tussle.
Now, this happens to me on the boat all the time. We'll bring in a sheephead, and people who are not used to being out there say, oh, that was a lot of fun. Do we eat these? And I say, well, I don't, but my good friend Chef Dixie Dave Minar does.
You should try them, Mike. They're actually very, very tasty and very mild. The meat's real white. You just got to skin them real deep and remove the red meat, you know, in the lateral line after you skin them out. And the bones are a little different. You just got to kind of watch them. But other than that, it's really a good fish.
Let me ask you this. If you cooked up for me walleye and sheephead and put them out side by side in an identical recipe, could I tell a difference?
I don't believe so.
Wow.
Because the sheephead might be in smaller pieces, you know, instead of just a regular fillet like a walleye would be. But I could cut the walleye up to make it resemble that.
Wow, that's interesting. Well, how would I cook it up, Dave? Give me a recipe.
Okay, we got a real, summertime, recipe of key largo, and it's on page 39 in the cookbook. We've adapted this from the walleye to the sheephead. So need about 8 ounces of boneless, skinless fillet per person, 1 to 2 eggs beaten up real good, a little bit of flour to dredge the fish in, a couple ounces of key largo schnapps, or you can get tropical schnapps or any of the sweeter schnapps that you would prefer other than that if you don't want them. And you can buy some of them in little small airline bottles too. You need a couple of cups of chicken gravy, 4-ounce package of sliced almonds, blanched, 1 ounce or so of shredded coconut, and you need a cup and a half of fruit, whether it's canned, fresh, frozen. If you're going to use frozen, make sure it's defrosted, and whatever you like. The list is endless as far as fruits go. Half an onion diced fine, 4 ounces of heavy cream. You're going to need about a teaspoon or so of butter and some olive oil to saute. So after you've gathered all of your stuff up here, you're going to dredge the fish in flour, then in the beaten up eggs. You want to lightly coat that. That's going to hold the moisture in and keep the flavor in also. So you're going to put a little small amount of oil into a large heated frying pan and place this fish with the skin side up, and then when you turn it over, the rib side will be facing the diner. And you want to, like I said, you're probably going to have 3 or 4 pieces of this as opposed to a fillet. So you're going to brown it on one side and skin side up, turn it over, saute it for another couple of minutes, and place that in a casserole. And it's going to continue cooking for just a little while longer. So you're going to wipe the oil from the pan with a paper towel. And you're going to saute the onions in a little bit of butter just for a couple minutes to break the flavor loose. You don't want to brown them off or anything. You can add the chicken gravy, then the key largo schnapps, and simmer it down for just a minute more. And then you put the heavy cream in, stir real good, add the fruit, and bring that up to a boil. Taste it, make sure it's to your flavor. You might want to put a little bit of lemon or something to enhance that flavor. But, if after you put the fish in the pan, you want to pour this mixture over the fish, and you can cook it on the oven top real slow for maybe 5 minutes. tops, and then, or you could bake it in the oven, 350 degrees. And then what you want to do is put your meat on the individual plates, and then spoon the sauce over the top. And then you're going to put it under a hot broiler after you put the coconut and almonds on, and just toast it till it's brown. But be careful, because that coconut will blacken real fast. And be careful, the plates are going to be hot. And then you can serve this with a ring of rice or your favorite pasta, and you'd be surprised how great the sheephead will taste.
Sheephead, huh?
Right. We didn't slip either.
You're right. We made it through the whole conversation. David, always a pleasure, especially when you come up with recipes like this. I'll wish you a great week, and we'll talk to you next time.
Yeah, you want to do another one next week?
Yeah, why not?
Why not? Yeah, I
Why
got
not?
a couple more that I got in the background here.
Sounds excellent. Another sheephead dish from wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar coming up next week. Appreciate Dave being along with us. Appreciate you being along with us. I'd encourage you to check out my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. You can check social media, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. Lots of ways to stay in touch. So let's do that. And I'll look forward to talking to you next time right here on Outdoor Magazine.